Preparing to stream. Facebook. I'm just going to open it up just to see if I can see there. There we go. Are you there?
I am. There we go.
That's hilarious. All right. So we are going live. Hold on one second. I was trying to see if I can share it into our group. Hold on just one second. Group. In Love with Love. Okay. And you can hear me?
Yep.
Perfect.
Perfectly.
All right, we're live.
Yay. We are live.
There you go. Yes, ma'am. So welcome.
Hey, y'all. Hi, guys. Welcome back to In Love with Love. It's been so long. It's been like a couple of weeks.
Right.
So we are talking about catching up in current events. First of all, how are you, my dear friend?
I am really good, actually. Just as the educators know, we're wrapping up. It's coming to the end of the year. Getting ready to doing some travel, getting ready to perhaps do some writing, getting ready for some next projects because we have our In Love with an experience for this year that we're still really hoping to get off the ground. So I'm doing well.
Awesome.
How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better. It was a tough season for me, and there was an amazing shift actually that I had today, mindset wise. I would just want to say that is the staying power of God. Like, I know scripture talks about he'll never leave you, never forsake you. And I kid you not, like, he has proven himself with me, especially today with that. And so last night I got a massage, and it's been a couple of weeks since I had one. Child, my back is burning.
Oh,
the back is sore. Uh-huh. She worked it out, but she worked it out. So I'm feeling a little bit better, but I am in pain. So
I love
we
a
are
good
here.
massage. Mm-hmm.
Father God, Father God, Father God.
Well, you're looking wonderful.
Thank you. So are you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's almost summertime, even with so much going on in our country and in our world.
Mm-hmm.
You know
what's happening with the world when we start breaking it down in the area and the topic of all things love? Like, what are people talking about, child? What we out here talking about?
Well, and of course, so it's so many things. I don't know if I wanted to, well, we could start where we start.
Yeah.
This week it just blew my mind because this episode actually aired weeks ago, or maybe even months ago. It was recorded months ago, and this is on the Dear Wifey podcast with Latarius. I don't even know his last name.
Whitfield, I believe.
Okay, Latarius Whitfield, and it's a viral video that has taken the internet by storm. With what's their last names again?
The Steels.
The Steels, pastor and first lady, or pastors still. I'm not sure.
By the way, mad respect to everybody. Shout out to Lataria. Shout out to the Steels. Mad respect.
So this internet interview at Dear Wifey Podcast, very popular podcast, especially amongst the Christian community. This interview was their testimony of their love story, and it had a lot of people up in arms. I want you to talk a little bit about it because you actually watched it.
Well, and then I know that I've talked to a couple people because there's what we do the reels, we do the sound bites, if you will, of the show to catch people's attention. So I think I don't want to say clickbait, but the whole reel you in was that in that moment, the snapshot, the pastor's wife, I don't know if she's a pastor, but she's the pastor's wife, Miss Steele, Lady Steele, if you will, was talking about how there was a moment where her husband backslid in their marriage. They had known each other for a while. I guess they, met and experienced each other since like 16, 17. And so in this young marriage, there was a moment where he backslid and he stepped out of the marriage. And as she was growing in who she was, she's explaining it this way in her identity in Christ and really actually being saved. She got to a place where she went from flip the script. She wasn't who was it in the movie? Uh, Said I'm not gonna cry. Or who was it in Waiting? It was Waiting in the Hexel where she put the fire on the clothes. Was it Savannah? No,
Angela Bassett. No, that was
she was the character, whatever her name was. So she flipped the script from bleaching his clothes basically to now what is it, Holy Spirit, that you are desiring for me to do. So when he was walking out, he'd be gone for days. Instead of doing those things, she would come back and say, hey, what do you want for breakfast? As he was preparing to leave out to see the mistresses or whatever, she would literally be ironing his clothes. And so that was a snapshot where it was like, hold on. Everybody was like, the sound heard across America was like, wait a minute, you ironing clothes for side chicks? And that was, I think, the one thing that people focused on, hypersensitive, hyper snap, because of, I think, the thing that you and I talk about often, and the thing that you have said to me is, we tired. Especially women of color, Black women, if you will, can kind of just say we're tired of struggle love. That was the thing that came up a couple of, I think, maybe even years ago now in commentary on podcasts, where it's like, nobody want to be on a struggle bus. Nobody want to be on a struggle love, having struggle love. So, but
no.
Now I'll come back in a minute and talk about, I feel like, more of the context of what she said, because I did listen to most of it. But I think that to set the tone of what we want to talk about. They don't want to be on a struggle bus. We don't.
No struggle bus love for sure. I will be honest with you. I grew increasingly disgusted every time I heard every time I heard them even talk. Like, I couldn't even get through the entire interview because I threw up my arms so many times. But I will say this though. In doing the work that Nicole and I do, I realize now their story is a redemptive gift story. It's cool and stuff like that. I have to say thank you, Jesus, because there was once upon a time where we had no choice but the struggle love bus if you wanted love. Mm. You know what I'm saying? This is not the 19th Black, not even Black, just women, period. Couldn't even have a credit card until the 70s. Couldn't get a home unless they had a husband or their father sign off on a home until 1970 something. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were so many limitations. So our grandmothers, some of our mothers, definitely great grandmothers, they literally crawled so that we can walk in this era in space of self-love, self-discovery, soft life, choosing ourselves, all of these fantastic things. And as we know, I do believe,
and we have options, is what you're saying.
We have options.
And because of that, we have options.
Because of that, we have options. And we know scientifically sometimes girls catch things quicker than boys do. As I watched the video, as I watched their interview, because I am one who can see God in, like, oh, look at the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. I definitely heard the redemptive love of the Father. That was something that I do believe, since she chose to be in it, he was like, okay, cool, I'll use it, because God will waste nothing. He won't waste a thing. But I'm so very grateful and glad to see once again that we have choices. We're not collectively, I don't believe, I'm going to say women, period. And I'm not just speaking for Black women. Black women, when it comes to this, because that's kind of been our narrative for so long.
Yeah.
But women collectively are choosing differently. And it may look like singlehood for a little bit longer, you know, because another thing that she had said was that, and I believe she meant it to be snarky. That's what really got it going on.
What'd she
Honestly,
say?
it wasn't even so much the ironing of the clothes to go see the side chicks. It wasn't only the fact that she wasn't his preference. She was just convenient. It wasn't only a lot of those things. It was also the well, what do you say if a woman is still single? Well, you probably met him, but like that's why I got the ring. This is not 1992 no more. People don't care so much about the ring. They want love. Real love. I'm searching for a real love. And that, I believe, was what also caught like the hellfire of what they caught. It was like, okay, it's cool when it's your stuff, but then you're going to use your struggle love situation to try and be like, well, that's why you ain't got no man. That used to be something for a very long time that people could try and hold on your hair. Well, at least, excuse me, at least I got a man. At least I'm married. At least I'm in like, but girl, do you see it? Like, I mean, don't like you, wasn't his preference. You was giving him money. You was 17. Like.
Yeah. I personally didn't hear it that way, but I do hear what you're saying. I do. I think she was saying, and many people do now, they feel like because they've been through, like you said, maybe a struggle or they walked through a place. And to a certain extent, I would agree it's true. We've never been married, whatever. But to a certain extent is what I'm saying. But what I heard her say in that way wasn't like, well, look at me, I'm married. It was more so like, now I'm trying to coach other people to say, don't be so quick to give up on something. And what I did hear her say in the context of what she was saying was that at, I guess, 17, which is so funny that how God does things, because we don't always have a reference point for stuff. Even now at 40 something, like I don't always have a reference point, but I couldn't imagine. I could not fathom at 17 this man popping up talking about, oh no, you're my wife. He don't even know what he's saying, but he's like, by the Spirit of God, has identified that this is his wife. And she's like, okay. She don't really even understand it. And like you said, at that age, you're saying, oh, that's not my preference. I like Latina chicks with big boobs and small weight, whatever he was saying. It was a preference thing, but it really was an immaturity. And to think that, like, even at this age, sometimes there's a lot of immaturity happening. Yes, we do have preferences. We do have preferences. And sometimes I feel what God is presenting to us doesn't always immediately fall within that line of preference.
You know, it's so funny because when you just said that, I totally forgot that there was this very strange person who I went to school with that told me I was going to be their wife. And I was like, the devil is a liar.
Very strange person.
Yeah, very strange person. And I'm like, he didn't tell me that. You know what I'm saying? Comes to find out that person is not with it. But what I'm saying is like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? We could always like pull stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always going to be spooky things, but we do know that God can do a thing like that.
He can definitely do a thing. He ain't trying to do everything, but he can do a thing. I will say too, though, that they had some things like, okay, so it took her willingness, and this is the part that really just kind of like makes me just grateful to God for mothers and like I said, mothers, grandmothers who walked through the fire, and now that we have a choice, because she was 17, she had familial trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like her father was cheating on her mother, and so her mother decided to leave, and she blamed her mom. Like where that came from, I'm not even sure. You know what I'm saying? Even that level of like
It's identifying with quote unquote the oppressor. So now the person that she loves, which is her father, who has done the wrong, you have identified with him in that. In her heart, we can't judge her mom. She can't really judge her mom.
No.
But in that moment, she was just like, Mom, you could have just stayed. And so then she began to live out that narrative. Kind of, it's an inner vow. I'll never leave someone for cheating, right? Now you're making this vow that all you can do is just forgive them, which is it's simplistic at a young age. You're thinking that way. That's yeah.
Yeah. So and what I was saying was that it takes two to tango, because without her complicitness or complicity, without her agreeing to that, none of this would ever happen. And that's why I was saying I'm so grateful. And I know that you mentor a lot of young women, and they look at you and they somehow they somehow gravitate towards me and they ask me questions. And I'm so grateful because our narrative is different. Our narrative is one of saved by you. I'm not saying the woman wasn't saved or whatever, but our narrative
Well, she
is one
said
of
she wasn't
self-knowledge.
saved initially.
Yeah, self-knowledge, self-love, appreciation, living and doing things. Like literally there is a solid understanding of the things that we've desired because we've lived long enough to have these experiences. And it's something that gets to be learned earlier and earlier. And I do believe that that's probably what the Lord intended. Because when you coming off of a traumatic situation with your parents, then you 17 getting with this guy, you guys have kids early before you're married, because they had kids before they were even married. There are all these kind of things that layer on to where in your mind, I have to have them. I got to have them. And this is one of the things I was kind of, when she was talking, I don't even know why this came up, but I was like, that almost sounds, it could just be just with other kind of things I'm noticing. But I was like, she's speaking those things that are not as though they are, that scripture, but almost a little witchcrafty. You know what I'm saying? But the difference between a witch and it's such a thin line. It's such a thin line, and the only thin line is motive.
Yeah.
The thin line is motive. Whether it started over here and then the Lord was like, oh nah, hold on. Let me arrest you real quick or whatever. It's such a thin line. And I was like, dang. And I say this as someone who God had to check me. This was years ago when this was like, I don't know, 2016, 2017. My then boyfriend, it was like, girl, I wanted to control him. And I didn't know why. I remember sitting in the bathroom like, God, why do I want to control him? I didn't even know where it came from, why, but I wanted to control him. And I thank the Lord for showing me not only the things that were in bloodline and stuff, and that took time to see, but also like, because that situation had become an idol in my heart, and I was in witchcraft. I have my heater on. I was in witchcraft. So once again, it makes me grateful for honest conversations because we get a chance to like share and encourage something different for people.
What I love about and I think you are called to it too, as well as me, not in the sense that we may not necessarily be called to what people consider a struggle love, but we're called to be long suffering. As God has called me into just studying and having another depth of understanding what it means to be long suffering, which is a fruit of the spirit, as we know. But it's so needed when you're an intercessor and really when you're a wife or a helpmeet. And begins before you've even entered into that thing. Now that's a whole nother conversation because that can look like witchcraft. It could be all the things. But what the Lord is saying, even in this moment to me, is just about like, I don't know if you read the book. I'm not gonna get the title right, but it's written by a lady named Debbie Pearl, and she talks about the different types of men. Like one could be a visionary, one could be like Jesus the priest, who's very steady.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, Debbie Pearl, and her testimony in the book, I love it. Which, because that was the first time I'd ever heard that. She's a white lady. She's like, they were like the flower children. They were of the 60s. So now she's like, of course, in her 70s. But at the time, she I had never heard it, but it was so pure. Her telling her story at, I feel like she was 16, and God had sent her to this like revival or whatever. And at this time, this youth pastor was like 19, maybe. And he was up preaching, and the Lord literally told her, "That's your husband." Where does that happen? Who does that? Her mom wasn't even saved. Her mom just sent her. So when you talk about not having a frame of reference for something, I just think about how God will do that so often. You don't even have language for a thing. But because he knows the heart of an intercessor, he knows what's needed. He's so detailed. But she began to tell the journey about how she went home and was like, Mom, like she was kind of weirded out, like, but she said, God told me this is my husband. And it was so interesting because when she went home, her mom, again, she's not really saved. She was just like, well, if that's what God said, you don't need some prayer. You don't need some help. So over the years, fast forward, it didn't even happen like immediately. Like over the years, like she would see him around, they were in the same church settings, and she would pray for him. Fast forward, I'm not gonna go on to all the story or whatever, but it makes me think about even the story that I heard recently on Instagram about Gerald and Tammy Haddon. They have a church here in Atlanta, and they're coming up on their, I don't know what year anniversary. They're about to actually launch a show as well. But she shared, I watched it today, and she was like, and I guess they were in the same church arenas too. And she said, at 16, 17, again, here's these young ages, she said, the God told me that was my husband. But she said, after he said that, she said, don't do anything. Leave him alone. And she was like, what? Like, at 16, 17, that's a prime time. You want to date somebody, talking on phone, call them. It's like, what the heck are you talking about? And so I guess the point I'm making is that I know God to be the God where he will do these type of things. But how many times do we supersede the will of God in terms of the process, letting it play out in relationship? And just because we don't know, we're hurt, all of the things, like I said, we don't even know. She didn't even know God. So it just is so fascinating to me, like had we, or if we will consider doing it, quote unquote, God's way. Now he's still going to work in it. Maybe we could save ourselves from some of the heartache, right? Because even Tammy, in her reel she was sharing, she was like, later, right, after she had been through some of the things she had been through, and all the things, they got together, blah, blah, blah. She said, Holy Spirit reminded her of that conversation and said, I did that because I wanted to save you from some of the heartache that you experienced. I did that because I didn't want to include you in the process that I was doing to make him and to mold him and to be a part of. And I was just like, wow. And also the Lord was reminding me of Abraham and that whole situation with Sarah. Like, they didn't do everything right from A to Z. She got some heartache. You know what I'm saying? They had some stuff that was a promise, but that became a little struggle of. Yeah. And it really didn't have to be, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, I guess, or how it plays out because of humanity.
But if you look at it, if we look at it with like a big lens, it makes life the spice of life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes this life that we walk the adventure that it is.
Exactly.
It really, really does. As you were talking and as you were saying that, I was like, yep, totally. And the Haddons are so cute to me too. But they're so cute. But it makes me think like, and also the sneakiness of the spirit of offense. You know what I'm saying? Mature eyes know, like, okay, even with somebody else's story, you got to pull down a fence because it's not your, like, whether you have any relationship to it or understanding in it, because all of the rejection that he kept pushing towards her. And I told you one of the things that was irritating to me was how they were laughing about it.
Yeah.
And babe,
and he was so frank about it. He was so frank about, like, you weren't my type. Like, he was very just, and it might be his personality. He was just very frank about it.
Yeah. I look forward to, and I was watching something and they were talking about how Gen X, how Gen Z, which is the 20s something now, how they could never, they wouldn't make it growing up during the time of like Gen X. They wouldn't make it. And they were like, with this guy, he was like, we literally went through so much so you guys can have mental health days now,
Yeah.
and all of this kind of stuff. And that kind of honestly is the same, not the situation, but the same kind of mind frame and mindset. Like, we ain't washing clothes on the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We throw that thing in the washing machine.
I just feel like as long as we're not disillusioned into thinking there's not going to be maybe trial, like it's not going to always be we're not always on vacation. That's not reality. Even in a relationship where you can have as much emotional intelligence as you want, sensitivity as you want, this man caters to you, there is, because we're human, like there is going to be a need to pray for someone, to intercede, like, and hopefully vice versa. Like, so as long as we're not fixing ourselves in this new generation to just be like, because I know we're so much about protecting our peace, baby. Mm-hmm. And I get the mindset, like we want to cultivate peace and we want to allow the shalom of God, the peace of God. But even in that, peace is available even in chaos. Yeah. Let's be honest, sometimes these bank accounts look chaotic. Let's be honest. Like, it's a lot of stuff that look crazy and we can still have peace. And so as long as we're not brainwashing ourselves to think that it's going to be sunshine and roses, fantasy, and anything that's not that, we protecting our peace, we're going to protect ourselves. Now that's a problem in itself. Self-preservation becomes a problem.
Fantasy. I think that also it's a spirit of fantasy for sure, because sometimes the man may come super available and stuff, but his pockets may not be right. Sometimes his pockets are right, but he may do a walk with a little twitch or whatever it is. So
not the twitch.
I don't know. Like,
but it's real though. That is real. Huh? I said that's real.
Yeah, no, seriously. It's I thought you said something else. That's the reality of it all. But I do believe that the Lord also kind of bends us in favor of our assignment. Oh my God, I was reading something the other day, and it was the Lord's Prayer, but it was broken down in such a different way that I was kind of like, whoa, like that part of forgive those who trespass against us. And the part they were saying was like, when you're a trespasser, that's when you're not in your own lane. Right. You find yourself in the lane of somebody else. Trespassers be bouncing over here. As that woman even said, God graced her to pray for her husband and iron his clothes as he was going to go see his side chicks. Me, that's a trespass. That's not my situation. Yeah. So I can't go over. Do you see what I'm saying? I can't go over there. So, but somebody else who may be like, I don't know, deals with something else that they may deal with that God has graced me to be able to deal with. That's my lane. That's why a relationship with the Lord is so important. It is so important.
And what I will encourage all of us, right, to do is, and I heard somebody say, because I was just at a relationship panel this past weekend, and we were listening to both singles and married, and one of the married ladies who's been married, I think 5 years, and she was just sharing how she didn't know that she would walk through this journey with a quote unquote unequally yoked man and what it would look like and blah, blah, blah. And I think that, I don't mean to blah, blah, but I don't think she was maybe initially saved, like, but then she became, I think that's what she was saying. She got, and so now they're like, and she said, now she's in it, right? What are we doing? Now we're in it. I had this charge to pray for him and to move in a certain way. And I guess I say that to say that we don't know until we know. So we can say, you know what I mean? Like, pray. Lord, I don't really want that challenge. I don't want a challenge of a man walking with a switch, but if I'm in it.
A sanctified wife sanctifies the husband, but that means that we're sanctified ourselves. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So.
And I just say that because I really think it's important for this newer generation to understand, don't say what you won't do, and don't say like, because you just never know. and you're equipped and called for it if it comes up and you're in it, right? Let's just say we're married or we're, God says, hey, this is the one for you. You're called and equipped.
You're called and equipped, and then it will feel like I do not burden. And this is kind of like the teetering part for us who are watchers and watch men and watch women. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we can be watch people and then it's an assignment or whatever. But that's once again why we have to constantly, and the Lord moves and shifts. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we act like he's so fixed. He's not. He over here moving pieces. That's how God works. That's why it's so important for us to just make sure that we are in his plan and in his order, however he is moving and grooving with whatever he's doing. So that's that couple right there, honey.
Yes. Well, tell me about this tea about Tracee Ellis Ross.
So Tracee Ellis Ross recently was on Michelle Obama's podcast, her and her brother's podcast. I do not remember the name of it. I was watching it, and she honestly just shared a tidbit of what she had shared. First of all, she is attracted to younger men, but she shared that she grieves the life that she thought she would have. And I've heard her say this before. It's not like this just all of a sudden came out of nowhere. She did put the word grieve there this time, which is different, but she always thought she would be married with kids and have a big old wedding and all of those things. She's 51, I believe. And it didn't happen for her, or it has not happened for her yet. Right. And the group of men that she obviously is attracted to are not only younger, so that plays a part, but men her age, not only is she not really attracted to them, it's just, it's
I do know.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. That's what I really don't, to be honest, but that's what I get it. I totally understand that. I understand the grieving aspect, or just her saying like she wanted to have kids. She's 51 years old. Granted, it's never too late. Miracles happen. I don't know if she's coming from that mindset. And it's not even so much miracles, but God's blessings happen.
Yeah.
But she grieves it. And so the grieving process, a lot of people had something to say. A lot of men were like, oh, in a sense, honestly, kind of telling her to settle. Yeah. You settle. Now contrast that. I don't know.
Wait. Mm-hmm. Why was people trying to put her, and that people trying to be funny? That's what they was doing, because I seen the memes. They was trying to put her with Shannon Sharpe.
That's what I'm about. That's exactly what I was about to say. I was going to say, contrast that to Mr. Sharpe, who had to honestly I don't know if he's being sued. I don't know what the heck is going on, but I purposely wasn't even trying to, because my ears are pure. Okay. My life has to stay nice and light, but apparently he had, relations, or not even relationship, but sexual relations with a young girl. And Shannon is 56 years old. This girl's 19.
Yeah.
She's suing him because I guess he choked her out a little bit too harsh. I don't know if it's blackmail or whatever it is, but he's being sued. And in it, there was a lot of just foul conversation, a lot of racial conversation, and people are like, well, Tracee likes younger men. Tracee was, first of all, the younger men she's dealt with have been probably not more than 10 years. This girl is 19. She's literally young enough to be his granddaughter.
So what was the leaked conversations that he was having? Was that it? Like he was having a conversation?
Yeah. So apparently she got him on the phone talking about what they had done. And it's so unfortunate. Okay. It really is. And I don't even know the details, but I just know it's dark. Okay. And I know it's dark, and I know it's not the same thing, because what I have seen are, once again, because they happen so close in time together, a lot of people trying to compare that with Tracee Ellis Ross talking about she's not, she's grieving the family that she once thought she would have and doesn't have. That's a horse of a difference.
To me, those are two different things. Exactly.
Totally different things.
And the problem I was having this conversation on my job the other day. It was fascinating because it's fascinating how I don't want to. Anyway, how
Let me just say, I
guess,
love the conversations you be having on your job. I love that you can talk to your coworkers for real about this kind of stuff. You are blessed in that, okay?
Well, the spouse who was not a part of our job was saying to her that, I guess maybe that's a man thing. Like, oh, they got him, right? They got him, y'all. Like that got him thing. And she was so like, excuse me? Like she went like off on her husband just because like you need to understand, like this is not at all that. And my thing was, here's my problem. There needs to be a higher level of accountability amongst the brethren, amongst the men. Like, first of all, y'all old tale with this young girl. I mean, if you play these, like she said, to play these reindeer games, and what do you expect? She was like, reindeer prizes. Like, what do you expect? So don't be mad with what you quote unquote got. I'm just saying, but then where's the level of self-respect and then respect for women in general? Like
they don't have any. So this is another issue. Like I just love, I love that we can talk. Because it's a couple of things. You got Tracy over here who is not self-made because people call her Nepo baby or whatever, but she is doing well for herself.
In her own right, she has
very, very well for herself, okay? And ain't asking for nothing from nobody. Probably just want real love. That's it, real love. Once again, just want some real love and is living well. They hate the fact that she's on vacations, posted up, looking fabulous, might I add. Her body is
she looks amazing.
She looks amazing. She always looks so rested, just wonderful. But you have that, and then you have the complaint because she can do for herself. This is why I'm very careful with these conversations because it's always the same complaint. On one hand, you independent, you don't need no man. Then on the other hand, you're a gold digger and trying to get the gold. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Tracy is self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Then you have Shannon Sharp, who don't want to deal with no older woman. He's told Monique. Remember Monique got on his show and she was like, you need you a woman.
She told him.
She told her, Cat Williams told him, but definitely her, she was very straightforward. You need to stop dealing and messing around with these young girls. Why? I don't understand why old men want to deal with young girls in the first place. Like, what y'all talking about?
They're not talking about nothing. It's not a conversation. They don't care about that. They're not. And I have to be quite frank, it's whorish. And it's a whorish mentality. And it's just like, it becomes a vice because I can. And now you're living out glory days because you were this athlete that was seen a certain way. And you're not. You're old, sir. It is what it is.
But this is the thing about it, too, because might we add that this young woman is a white woman, okay? She is a white young lady. Black girls, oh no, you after my money. You gold digger. Because they don't think that Black women even deserve the gold.
Well, I'll say this, too. It's still forbidden fruit. So that's still a thing. Systematically, psychologically, I don't care what, it still is. It's still, you've arrived some way if you've got this little, I mean, and shout out to our white sisters, but I'm just saying the way they see it, if you got this white money on your arm or whatever the case may be, with a pink toe, whatever you want to call it, it's a sense of status and trophy. Like, you know what I'm saying? It is. So, on a subconscious level.
Completely agree with you. So then the antithesis of that really is a Tracee Ellis Ross. Okay, well, I'm gonna do me. But do you see the cycle? Do you see the cycle though? Because
here's the thing, and you and I say this often. Again, your brothers are not holding you accountable, and you don't want to be accountable to come higher as a man. You just want to stay down here with your vice and feed this insecurity. That man is insecure. So
yeah. Absolutely. So therefore, once again, you have a Tracee Ellis Ross. So since romance or whatever didn't work for her, you have the success, the accolades. She's in his age group. He's 56, she's 51. Like, come on now. That's the age group right there. Body is T, like we just said, banging.
Yeah,
all amazing. Of these other things. Like, but I think that there's psychologically, as you just hit on the head, psychologically, mentally, it's not just the fact that she's a white girl. It's not just the fact that she's 19. It's also, I feel like almost too, what is considered to be, I don't know, like, because I was thinking about how he used to run after Nicole Murphy. He was willing to give her everything. This is Shannon Sharp, biracial. Tracy's biracial as well. But yet you wouldn't date a woman like her?
No.
I don't know. So that goes into...
No, because it goes back to him. Think about it. Like, if you think about high school glory days, you think about college glory days, and then you're, drafted into the NFL or whatever the case may be, their focus is the athletics. Their focus is to be the superstar, and anything else around that is secondary, but it feeds all of that. It fuels all of that. That's not what a woman is. They even tell them when they're on game day, no contact. So none of that is allowing you, and granted, I know there's here's and there's where, some people are married and they have a benefit of a spouse who's encouraging them. But by far, that whole athletic superstar thing, women are secondary. That's only a vice. Think about even when they're signing and all of the things, they're trying to throw these women at them to get them, come here, play here, sign on here. It is such a convoluted situation.
Even younger though, because I know we're talking about Tracy and Shannon, but I believe this pathology is so much deeper, and it still goes back into those very things that we talked about with our first couple, that self-image and self-esteem at that young age. And I'm saying, like, even the NFL draft that they just had, apparently I heard that not one of those players was with the black girl, even though they were all black boys. Not one is with the black girl. So what are young black girls who are no longer going to be on the struggle bus of love, who are no longer going to be on the struggle bus of love, but they're still not like, what are they to do?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Jesus.
That's a good question. And I think what is being seen more, I'm not saying this is the answer, but what is being seen more is what they're equating soft love to is marrying the white man now. And I'm not saying good or bad, wrong or right. I'm just saying that is a thing that's prevalent now in conversation.
Yeah. That's so dangerous too, because when we're talking about things of the heart, matters of the heart, things of the Lord, anything that's an idol is a problem. Even marrying a white man, like, and because first of all, men are men. As somebody who has dated, across the, like, United Colors of Benetton, okay? Men are men, and they are going to be men, but I have definitely seen that hope is kind of like a hope, like, okay, it ain't working over here, so let me put my hope.
You say I think I've heard you say go where, maybe not in this context, but go where you're appreciated, go where people want you. But for so long, I see we have been down for the cause, even with the civil rights movement. Like, we've always been down for you. We got your back. The black men be like, listen, I'm going where I want it. Like, even in my hometown where I'm from, it is a mass phenomena, a pandemic, a epidemic, whatever you want to call it. Black men in my town, like where I'm from, Georgetown, Kentucky, they are with white women. And it's just I don't know. I think at the heart of it, and maybe I'm going to catch some flack for this, but I think some of that, at its lowest form, at the bottom of that, is some self-hatred, some self-deprecation.
Feel like that's honesty and reality. I think that it kind of reminds me of, honestly, how racism is baked in the soil of our country. It needs to be uprooted. That's the only way it's going to change, is an uprootment. Like, that's the only way. It is literally in the trees. It's in the soil. It's in the ground.
And I'm calling for more accountability in this season, this year, this next year's couple of years with the brethren, the men. Like even as we have our work to do with women, I'm really asking like the older men, even the younger men who just know the importance of relationship, marriage, even if it's failed before, you tried it, like you still know the importance of it, the value to like hold them accountable, like to have those conversations, like get them sowing seeds to want the thing, because it's a godly thing to desire marriage and family.
So I'm gonna say this. As you just said that, I saw that movie Sinners. I'm not going to give no spoilers or anything like that in case people want to see it and stuff, because it is picking up traction. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not Christian. I once again saw the Lord was straight speaking. I'm like, okay, yes, Lord, got it. No, boom, boom, boom. I will say this, that there's a character in there. She is a plus size, dark skinned Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when she first came on the screen, from what I'm seeing on social media, people thought she was going to be like an auntie, a mammy, a mama. No, she's a love interest. And it blew a lot of people's minds. First of all, because Ryan Coogler, shout out to Oakland. He's from the Bay Area. He's from Oakland. He purposely shot this movie in like the cinematography was to uplift like the lens of the camera. It makes Black skin look amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, they have quite a few, like the technology is on point. No longer, once again, this is what happens with progression of time. No longer are we dealing with camera lenses where we may look all jacked up and ashy and gray and just unattractive. Now, technological advances. And so the Black skin was Black skinning. People were looking pretty gorgeous. One woman, like I said, they thought she was an auntie and mammy or whatever until they realized that she's actually a love interest. And not only was she a love interest, the love that she had with her beau in the movie, it was kind of like, whoa. I mentioned that because I saw some reactions on TikTok, and a couple of Black men, they were like, I had to, you know what? I got to be hold myself accountable. She came out here.
Okay. Bless you.
I don't know what it is. My heater, who knows? Satan, the Lord rebuke you in the name of Jesus. She was beautiful, and their love was beautiful. And so men were holding themselves accountable because they're like, I ain't see that before. It's okay to like plus size women in the dark. It's okay to like Black women in the dark. But when I'm in the light, when I'm sharing my preferences with my boys, all of that kind of stuff, I can't, because that's not mainstream beautiful.
But I will say this, as much as we have made progression with our technology, there are always pluses and minuses. So if you think about the context of back then, right? They didn't have all of this social media. They didn't have MTV, BET. They didn't have all of the things, even though it was more restrictive in their community, beauty was still seen as the raw that it was. Like you could see women like that. So it was like different contextually, even though mainstream America, whatever, it still wasn't mass produced in the way that it is now. And even back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, right? So I can see the plus of that. Being on pun on plus, because plus size, because it was still, hey, this is what we know. First of all, Big Mama's beautiful in our eyes. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just wanted to make that comment. Like in our community,
it makes sense. But I'm talking about realistically, real time Black men today who have been inundated with.
But I'm just making a commentary on, because you were saying for what it's worth, even though we've advanced, sometimes we lose things in culture, even though we advance.
For sure. No, for sure. Because yeah, it's been definitely a not purposeful, but a very prevalent strife between the relationships of Black women and Black men, especially over the past several years, and with rising of podcasts and people just having their opinion. And a lot of these opinions have come from unhealed spirits and souls. So that agreement and that spewing out there has just unleashed a lot of offense, bitterness, hurt, and there has to be a catalyst of some sort for whoever, however you get it, get it while the getting is good.
Yeah. But
that's what I was saying. Like, I saw in real time. It's so interesting because Caribbean men don't have an issue with that, but African men, it's a trip. African and Caribbean men don't have an issue, but African American men, especially some of the ones on the West Coast, like they were homeboy. It was like we saw literally because he recorded it, his reaction, and it was like his mind was being blown, almost kind of like a veil was being lifted off of his eyes. Like, she was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that art can be presented in such a way to bring a new appreciation. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, oh God, see, this is one of the things, because that is creativity. That is God. That is who the Lord is. He creates. He's created us to create. He is creator. He is source. Like, when we think about all of those things, I'm literally reading this book right now too. It's so good. It's called Essentialism. And the part that I'm on or read yesterday was about play and how stress will stifle our creativity and it'll block us from being able to play. That is not of God. Any kind of stress, whether it's financial stress, relational stress, all of those kind of things that are stressors, when we get back to our bare roots, we need to be at play. Yeah. We need to be creating. And that is exactly who the Lord is.
I love it. Listen, this has been a great conversation. I miss talking to you.
I know, dude. Girl, it was kind of rough for them past couple of, the past couple of months, especially with the sicknesses and stuff.
Yeah.
That was too much.
We have got some great things coming on the horizon, guys. We thank you all for rocking with us. We're not going to keep on belaboring this time, but this was great. Yes. I cannot wait to the next time that we talk, to the next interview, to the next experience.
Me too. And you know what? We will conclude this with saying what we always do. Make sure y'all stay in love with love, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
We love y'all.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.